Urzikstan was supposed to be the map to revitalise Warzone after the disaster that was Warzone 2.0. And while everyone is slide cancelling cracked out of their mind on Verdansk, and by that I mean sitting on top of buildings with the HDR trying to snipe people from 400 metres away, I'm going to take a dive into where it went wrong for Urzikstan. After the mess of Warzone 2, Urzikstan dropped into the game on December 6th, 2023. The map was a mixture of the urbanness of Verdansk but the rural desert of Al Mazrah. The map rolled back many of the features that we'd seen removed with Warzone 2, such as giving us back slide cancelling, the ability to run while reloading, a dedicated pistol for water combat, and more. The adding of Urzikstan also heavily rolled back the backpack system that we had seen in Warzone 2 and Al Mazrah. It really simplified it and sort of gave, dedicated ammo slots. It really kind of toned it down to what we were used to with Al Mazrah. So when this dropped, it was actually good to see the developers listening to community feedback. From the time of when this map dropped, I don't really remember much criticism other than the fact that the map was pretty bland. If you think about Call of Duty's Battle Royale maps, they've all had character and their own identity. Even Caldera, which is absolutely universally hated by most of the community, has its own identity, it has its own character, and you can probably remember at least 2 or 3 of the POIs from Caldera, whereas Urzikstan just feels very forgettable. The map also dropped with 100 players, which the development team said it was down to ensuring server stability. But as a player base, we all know it was due to the dwindling player numbers that have been caused by the disastrous mistakes of Warzone 2. The first big mistake that was made with Urzikstan was the removal of ranked play, which we had gotten for the first time during Warzone 2's lifecycle. This had been a shining light during those dark days. However, prominent Call of Duty news accounts did tweet and say that we would see ranked play on Urzikstan in early 2024, so at the time, there was some hope. Modern Warfare 3 Season 2 rolls into town on February 7th, 2024, and it brings with it a reimagined version of Fortune's Keep. There was a lot of love shown for Fortune's Keep with interactive POIs, Easter eggs, and big changes to the map to make it fresh from the version that we got during the original Warzone lifecycle. If I was asked to pick a point of where Urzikstan was kind of just placed to the side in favour of Resurgence, it would be this season right here. True to their word, Season 2 did see the developers add ranked play back into Warzone in early 2024. They just put it on Fortune's Keep instead of the big map, and we got 9 months of Resurgence ranked instead. Another fan favourite map returned to the game on April 3rd, 2024, as the developers reintroduced Rebirth Island to Warzone. Obviously, the community went wild for a map that had been in the game for many years before and dropped relatively unchanged from the form that we last saw it in during Warzone 1. Rebirth Island also received the High Trip Resurgence mode, the Loaded Resurgence mode, and Rebirth Island Lockdown mode during this season, which were 3 limited time modes that kept the game fresh. All the while, Urzikstan sat to the side and was becoming more and more stale as each day passed. This is genuinely the Call of Duty equivalent of Squidward looking out of the window and watching SpongeBob and Patrick run around outside the front of his house. That's what this feels like. Ranked play also moved over to Rebirth Island from Fortune's Keep, and it will remain this way for the rest of Modern Warfare 3's lifecycle. At this point, we're 4 months on from Urzikstan's release, and there have been no significant changes made to Warzone's big map offering. May 29th, 2024 finally saw the big map getting some love from the development team. One of the key adjustments that was made to the game was upping the player count from 100 to 120 players, which did make the map feel slightly more populated. There was also the addition of bunkers, which gave high tier loot, and items such as unlimited tac sprint boots, which really changed the feeling of the game. The Runaway Train in-game event also offered something different for the endgame, with the circle moving with the path of the train. We even got a POI change in the form of Popov Power getting green slime all over it and a massive hole in the middle. You truly had to be there to experience how lackluster of a change this really was. It really didn't do an awful lot to the map in the slightest. But it was good to finally see the big map get some love and have the spotlight shone on it after it kind of sat in the corner for 5 months. However, 1 season of content really couldn't negate 5 months of staleness, and the game, for the most part, remained pretty boring. However, the developers had one more trick up their sleeve which would change the big map forever. And that trick was to add Superstore back into the game on July 24th. Now, you know the game is going bad when the developers start adding in fan favourite POIs to different maps. They did the same with Caldera when they added Storage Town to the top of the hill, and well, That really changed that map for the better, didn't it? The problem with this Superstore was that it didn't create a hot drop as it wasn't based in the middle of the map. And while it was modelled on the original Superstore, it wasn't the same, proving that these popular POIs only really work in their original map setting. Season 6 of Warzone always means one thing: Halloween. And on September 18th, 2024, we discovered what we'd be getting for Urzikstan. Now you'd be thinking, surely with the success of the Haunting of Verdansk, the most popular limited time mode we've ever had on Warzone, and then the changes that we got with the big map on Al Mazrah, where they turned it into nighttime and put scare boxes in, you'd be thinking Urzikstan would be absolutely shoo-in to host a Halloween event. Well, you'd be absolutely wrong. Halloween event went to Rebirth and Vondel. This year was truly the year of the Resurgence Warzone player. Rebirth Island played host to Zombie Royale, as well as being the setting for Warzone's first fully fledged sandbox mode with the introduction of Purgatory. This 2-hour-long mode allowed players to drop in complete challenges for the Halloween event, and basically they were just able to have fun running around doing whatever they wanted. So Modern Warfare 3's lifecycle hadn't really been all that kind to Urzikstan. But never fear, Black Ops 6 was just around the corner, and surely that would inject some life into the game. The Black Ops 6 integration of Warzone was by far and above the worst that we've ever had, and it essentially just broke the game in November 2024. With the integration came the addition of another Resurgence map in the form of Area 99. This Nuketown themed map is essentially the Resurgence equivalent of Urzikstan. No one asked for it, no one's bothered by it, and everyone will forget it once it leaves the game for good. Alongside the game-breaking bugs, Urzikstan was also returned to its original state that we'd seen just less than a year before, as the Omni Movement Warzone engine had been built on that version of the map. So this already boring and stale map, which had seen few and far between updates, has now been reverted back to its original boring state less than a year after it dropped. There was a silver lining though. Battle Royale Ranked dropped into Urzikstan for the first time 11 months after it was originally expected to drop. And then it was full of cheaters, just to ruin the experience. Nothing was actually added to Warzone when Black Ops Season 2 was added on January 28th. This was because the game was so broken that the developers pushed back the releasing of content so they could fix it. The only thing that changed on Urzikstan as part of this update was the addition of 2 new perks in the form of low profile and reactive armor. I'm 100% sure you use them all the time. But then, on February 27th, we finally got an Urzikstan change. The developers upped the player count from 120 to 150 players to test the servers as the Verdansk rumours and leaks started to fire up. And then on April 2nd, 2025, we said goodbye to Urzikstan as Warzone went dark for 24 hours to prepare for the launch of Verdansk, and the rest is history. Ultimately, the developers plan out seasonal content months and months in advance. Like, for instance, right now we've just seen Season 3 drop into Black Ops 6, but we already know that the fact of the matter is they're going to be planning for Season 5 and Season 6 right this moment. So, I don't see why Urzikstan was added into the game as part of Modern Warfare 3's lifecycle, only for there to be a focus on Resurgence maps literally just in a few months later down the line. So I don't get why we got a new map if that was going to be the plan all along. Then the gameplay of Urzikstan never really helped itself. It had too many Resurgence themes all the way through it. I'm talking Gulag tokens, redeploy flares, redeploy drones, which really sort of mess with the pacing of the map. It essentially became Resurgence on a big map, and it really went away from the traditional Battle Royale. And it's probably one of the main reasons why people are enjoying Verdansk so much. Yes, of course, there is a nostalgia element there to Verdansk. There is no getting away from that. But for the first time in a long time, big map actually feels like a normal Battle Royale for a change. I will say that upping the player count to 150 players by the end of Urzikstan's lifecycle was a much needed change. The freshness of that map, it actually felt populated for a change, and I was really enjoying playing it before we lost it from the game. With Al Mazrah actually being rated quite highly by the Call of Duty community, you know, a lot of people agree that it was a really good map in a really bad Call of Duty game. It feels like maybe we should have just stuck with that rather than bring out Urzikstan, especially if there had been a lot of Resurgence content planned. It feels like we could have maybe done a lot better on that map with the Modern Warfare 3's sort of movement engine and weapons rather than maybe transporting across to Urzikstan. Either way, I can't see Urzikstan really ever returning to Warzone, even on a rotational map basis, unless they really tweak some of those POIs and make significant changes to that map. If they were ever to bring back Urzikstan, it needs to have sort of a Fortune's Keep makeover to it. You couldn't just drop in Urzikstan, the launch version, like they have done with Verdansk, back into Warzone. Let me know your thoughts. Did you like Urzikstan? Did you not like Urzikstan? Why do you think Urzikstan really just could not get off the ground and never be a success? I'll catch us all in the next one.